Hello, welcome. In this lesson we will be learning how to solve quadratic systems algebraically using substitution. So basically with substitution we set one equation equal to x or y, whichever one looks like it might be easier. Substitute into the other equation, and then you solve for the variable. In this example we'll see, so we've got y plus 2 equals x squared, and we have y equals negative 2x squared plus 5. So here we see that y is already solved in this equation for y. It's already alone on the one side. And so we can just take this minus 2x squared plus 5 that's equal to y and put it in here for y. So if we do that, as what we get as a result would be negative 2x squared plus 5, that's the y part, plus 2 equals x squared. And then we want to solve, we've done the first couple steps, and so now we want to solve for the variable x. So we subtract x squared from this side. We want one side to be equal to 0. Subtract x squared from both sides, and we get minus 3x squared 5 plus 2, 7, equals 0. See, now we've got a few different options to solve this here. I think that the easiest way, since we've got no x term in the middle, we wouldn't want to factor it necessarily. So I'm just going to solve it like you would with square roots. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And I get minus 3x squared equals, this cancels on the left hand side, and we get minus 7 over here. Then we divide by negative 3. And we get x squared is equal to 7/3. Then we take the square root, since we got the squared portion alone now. So we take the square root of both sides. We need to remember when you do that to add the plus or minus. So then x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 7/3. So once you have the x values, you want to find the y value or values by substituting what you have found back into the one of the two equations. So I'm going to choose to put it back in to the second equation since it's already solved for y. So we've got y is equal to -2 times the square root of 7 thirds squared plus 5. Now, I don't need to put both a positive and a negative value in here because the squaring eliminates the negative, because a positive times a positive is positive, but a negative times a negative is also positive. So the squaring removes that plus or minus, so I can forget about putting it in both values. So as a result, we get negative 2 times 7 thirds plus 5, which is negative 14. 2 times 7 is negative 14 thirds plus, and I'm going to make 5 into, put it in terms of thirds, so 5 times 3 is 15 thirds. 15 thirds is the same as 5. So, but now I've got common denominator, I can add them together. So negative 14 thirds plus 15 thirds would be 1/3. And so we have two solutions. We have negative square root of 7 thirds in x, comma 1/3. And we have positive square root of 7 thirds 1/3. And if I want to verify if that works or not, you can always go back like we did in our last lesson and solve this graphically in like a graphing calculator or on Desmos. I did go ahead and do this on Desmos, and I found the one point of intersection was at negative 1.528, 0.333, and over here on the right, it was also 1.528, 0.333. And if you put in your calculator the square root of 7 thirds, you'll find that it comes out to something very close to 1.528. And then 1/3, of course, is 0.333 repeating. Okay, so on the next example, we've got y equals x squared plus 13x plus 9. And go over this in red. Y equals x squared plus 13x plus 9. And it's already solved for y. And so I'm just going to go down, and with this y right here, I'm going to put in the expression x squared plus 13x plus 9. I'm going to put it in for y. So I get x squared plus 13x plus 9 plus 9, this is the 9 that was already there, is equal to 2x. And then I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, getting 0 on the right. And I get x squared plus 11x. 9 plus 9 is 18 equals 0. And then I'm going to factor this. And I get x times x. And then I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 18 that combine to 11. And so I think that's 9 times 2. And 9 times 2 gives us 18, and 9 plus 2 gives us 11, so those are our numbers. On this problem, this part of the problem, x plus 2, the part that would make that equal to 0, I'll just go ahead and write x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 9 equals 0. Remember, you're multiplying these two factors, x plus 2 and x plus 9. If you're multiplying these two numbers and their product is 0, the only way that that can be possible is if one of the numbers is 0 or if the other is equal to 0. So subtracting 2 from both sides down here, we get x equals negative 2. And subtracting 9 from both sides, we get x equals negative 9. Now, like before, to find out what our what the y values are, we need to put those values that we found for x back into the original equations. So I'm going to use the bottom one just because I think it's a little simpler. Y plus 9 equals 2 times negative 2. And subtract 9 from both sides. Y equals negative 2 times negative 2 would be negative 4 minus 9. So that'd be y equals negative 13. Which means that one of our solutions is at negative 2, comma, negative 13. And the other solution would happen at y plus 9 equals 2 times negative 9, substituting this value in here. So subtracting 9 from both sides, we get y equals 2 times negative 9 is negative 18 minus 9. Y equals negative 27. And so our other solution is at negative 9, comma, negative 27. And those are our 2 points of intersection. But I want to check it in Desmos to see what it looks like, so I'm going to put those in and just verify. Now, in order to put this in Desmos, I had to solve the second equation for y. So I just had to subtract y for 9 from both sides, and I got 2x minus 9. So these are my two equations graphed here together. And if I click on one of those graphs, it shows that this one's at negative 2, 13. Just like we'd found negative 2, 13, negative 2 and negative 13. And the other side down here is negative 9, negative 27, which is the same as the solution that we found here, negative 9, negative 27. Here we have our final problem, y equals x squared minus 2x plus 1, and y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 4, and they're both solved for y. And so when this happens, you can just take the one part of it and set it equal to the other part, and then find the variable that happens as a result. So we've got x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to negative x squared plus 3x plus 4. And we just want to get all of the terms on one side and have 0 on the other side. So we're going to add x squared to get rid of the minus x squared. We have to do that same thing over here. Sorry, add x squared. And subtract 3x from both sides. So I'm just putting them by their like terms. And then minus 4, be minus 4 over here as well. So this cancels over here, this cancels this, and this cancels that, leaving 0 on the right. On the left, we get x squared plus x squared would be 2x squared. Minus 2x and minus 3x would be minus 5x, and 1 minus 4 would be negative 3, and that's all equal to 0. So we want to factor this 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. When we have a leading coefficient that's not 1, like this case it's 2, we multiply 2 times negative 3, which would be negative 6, and we'd put negative 5 here, and we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 6 that combine to negative 5. And so I'm going to think that that's maybe 6 and 1 with a negative on the 6 because negative 5, because 5 is negative down here. And negative 6 times a positive 1 would be negative 6, but negative 6 plus 1 would be negative 5. So we then take and put this in the box, makes it easier to factor. There are other ways you can do this, but I like using the box. So in the top left box, we put 2x squared, which is just our first term. And then negative 3 we put in the bottom right box, the bottom right-hand box. And in the two other boxes that remain, we're going to put negative 5x, but we're going to do that using the two numbers that we found. Negative 6x plus 1x, or just plus x. Because negative 6 times, or negative 6 plus x is negative 5x. And so there's our middle term, negative 5x, is in the box as well. So now we just factor this by greatest common factor in by row and by column. So 2x squared minus 6x, you would get 2x. Then I look at what multiplied by 2x would give me 2x squared, and that would be x. And then x times what gives me x? Well, x times 1 gives me x. 1 times what gives me negative 3? Negative 3 times 1 gives me negative 3. And then I can go all the way around. Negative 3 times 2x also gives me negative 6x. And so our two factors, x minus 3 and 2x plus 1. 2x plus 1 and x minus 3. And then we can say 2x plus 1 equals 0. Or x minus 3 equals 0. And if I subtract 1 from both sides on this left equation, I get 2x is equal to negative 1. Then divide by 2, and x equals negative 1/2. And adding 3 to both sides over here gives us x equals 3. So once again, we have to go back in and put these into the equation. Either one of the equations would be fine. So I'm going to put it in the top equation. Y equals negative 1/2 squared minus 2 times negative 1/2 plus 1. Negative 1/2 squared is 1/4. Negative times a negative is positive. Over here, negative 2 times negative 1/2 would be plus 1. And adding 1 again would be also plus 1. And so I can write this as 2.25. That's 2 1/4. Or I could write it as 9/4. Because one is 4/4 and another one is 4/4, so that's 8/4 plus the 1/4 is 9/4. I'm going to leave it as 9/4. So one of our solutions is negative 1/2, and 9/4 or 9/4. And the other solution, I'm going to do it over here. X equals 3. So 3 squared minus 2 times 3 plus 1. 3 squared is 9 minus 6 plus 1. 9 minus 6 is 3 plus 1, which is 4. And so our other solution is at 3, 4. And those are our two solutions. Once again, you can go back and check this on Desmos.com or on your graphing calculator to see whether those points of intersection are lining up with the points that we've found. It's time for you to go practice. Good luck. Let me know if you have any problems. Once again, if you need my help, you can reach me at 801-413-3363. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need any help. Thanks.